Zimbabwe's recent spate of load shedding is expected to worsen for the next 2 weeks after the state-owned power utility announced plans to resume work on the Kariba Dam Rehabilitation project. The work on the Kariba Rehabilitation project will result in even more reduced power generation capacity and therefore more supply woes for the country. Reporter Olisani Ngube now joins us to explain the significance of the Zimbabwe power situation. Olisani, good to have you with us this evening on In Focus. It was reported in December sometime that the Zimbabwean electricity grid collapsed. I mean, was it as bad as that? And most cities, most areas in the country plunged into a blackout. What was the cause of this collapse?
Well, good evening, Tawa, and compliments of the new season. As you might know, that Zimbabwe is faced with, I would say, double-pronged challenges, which include aging of infrastructure of the power supply system, as well as the heavy reliance on hydro power production system, as well as the thermal, which is making it difficult for the country to depend on off-grid, and this led into more cities going, I would say, failing to light up most cities and industries in December. And now the country is faced with a by the government would want to work on the Kariba Dam, which is the biggest source of power generation in the country, producing an average of more than 600 megawatts per day, although a target of 1,050 megawatts per day is set from Kariba to ensure that the country is lit up throughout the day.
And what has led to the refurbishment having to be done now, and was there no plan to systematically do this refurbishment in order to keep the energy supply going?
Well, we have to understand that some of these maintenance are scheduled maintenance, which according to what we hear from the Zimbabwe Electric Supply Authority, they say that they could not be postponed. Secondly, looking at the country's industrial capacity during the first part of the year is likely low because most companies are just picking up now, they are opening now, and then the usage of power is still low. And the most affected situation is the urban centers or the residential consumers who are now being forced to resort to other sources of energy because of this blackout, which is starting anytime soon. And also it's going to be prolonged because already from December last year the country was already facing a shortage because of the aged infrastructure, as well as rains bringing in damage to power supply systems, and as well as reduced generation power capacity at the Wange Thermal Power Station, which is the second biggest power supply for Zimbabwe.
Now, what is being done by the government to minimize the effects and the impact of this load shedding? Because I'm sure industrialization or in the industrial sector in particular is heavily hit by something as inconsistent energy supply.
Unfortunately, Tawa, the government hasn't put in an alternative plan that is very concrete, other than to appeal to the people to use power sparingly for those who have got supply or they've got access to power now. And this has forced many companies that have opened up to rely on the alternative source of energy, which is largely diesel and solar. Again, solar isn't very much popular in the country because of its cost. Many cannot afford solar products because they are very expensive in Zimbabwe. So this leaves the few industries that have opened up now or that have been running around, keeping the country going, to rely on the diesel supply or the generator for power supply, which again is not very convenient, and also increase the cost of production for Zimbabwe.
Yeah. Let's talk then about the rehabilitation work that is being done underway now on the ward. It's been underway for several years now. What are the implications of this? I mean, what are the legalities? What are the politics behind this rehabilitation work? I believe it's being done by a GE Hydro France, a company based in Bologna, in Billancourt, and a subsidiary of an American group, General Electric.
Well, these rehab are likely looking at ensuring that the power production capacity increases. from the current 650 megawatts per day to a standard set of 1,050 megawatts per day. The politics behind largely is about ensuring that the country has got enough energy supply, as well as you have to look at that the country largely has looked at the look east policy, which is China. A Chinese company is doing the Wange thermal 7 and 6 plants. That is the thermal power station in Wange. Now the hydro power station is largely being done because of you have to understand the Kariba Dam is managed by two countries, that is Zimbabwe and Zambia on the other hand. So the building and everything, the management of this rehab is done as a collective decision by Zambia and Zimbabwe. Hence, you would see that there is that kind of change in who largely is involved in the maintenance and also rehab for the works at Kariba Dam. Because if it was Zimbabwe on its own, it would have been a Chinese company doing the works there. But because of Zambia has largely been a very open country in terms of who does business with. Zimbabwe largely focused on China with respect, and that has led to kind of a very competitive bidding, and hence this company from which is a subject of General Electric coming in and also taking up the job to do the rehab. The idea behind is to ensure that the country's power generation capacity moves from 750 megawatts per day to 1,050 megawatts per day.
Well, Ncube, I appreciate your time and joining us here tonight to explain the significance of the power situation there in Zimbabwe.